Sup, you've reached Clarissa. I'm out somewhere being da bomb and can't answer. My bad. Leave me your name, number, and a sweet message, and I'll hit you up later. Peace.
Hey, it's Amelia.
And Sherrick.
You told us to call and let you know what we're doing.
Weird, we get your voicemail almost every week at this point.
Oh well, I guess we'll leave you a message about what we're up to and our pop culture thoughts of the week, and hopefully we'll hear back from you soon.
It's almost like we have a podcast about how to be less evil and condescending when someone shows you a TikTok that you've already seen. That's not a call out.
Are you sure? I'm just kidding. No,
I mean, not intentionally.
Yeah, no. I try really hard not to be that dick who's just like, yeah, I've seen that. Because they don't know that.
Right.
And then just also share something with you.
But also, there also has to be an equal and opposite energy of people who get mad at you when you're like, oh, I've seen that. Like, you try to be nice about it, and they're like, oh, how was I supposed to know? It's like, I'm not being rude. I just said I saw it. Thank you for showing it to me again.
I know. Sometimes I just lie, and I'm like, yeah, it's hilarious.
Yeah.
Well, it's not lying.
It's
not lying, because I do find it
hilarious. So yeah.
Right. I just don't put in the part where like, oh, I've seen this before or whatever.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I feel like it's that kind of shit is when I really, really started to notice the like rejection, sensitivity, dysphoria that comes with a lot of ADHD people.
Sure.
Because I was like, I don't feel that. And then I was like, no, I do. When people are like, well, I'm sorry or whatever, or they're like, oh, I've seen that before. I get this weird feeling like they're hurting me, and I'm like, that is stupid. That's dumb. Saying they've seen this is not, it's a statement. Yeah. Anyway, brains are fun.
It's also something to think about when like you read a statement and you like automatically put like a feeling to that statement, and by that I mean specifically just talking about like reading like a text message or something that like you cannot hear the person's intonation and such. And I know some people will use like slash JK or slash not mad or like whatever those like intonation like how like inferences are, but that always like I don't know, that's not something that people always like jump to. So it's kind of like it's kind of like don't make extra hard work for your brain by like putting all of this like like these intonations and such that aren't necessarily there. Like you can always ask the follow-up question of being like, hey, sorry, just want to check, is this something that like, are you upset? Like, but like it's a thing that and I'm calling myself out about this too, because like I will read a statement and go, oh, that's kind of, I feel like they're mad, but unless you ask, you ultimately don't know. So like you can't really do you're making harder work for yourself, and you're just stressing yourself out by just going, well, they must be upset with me when they said this thing, and it's like, well, if you don't know, you can't be sure.
Yeah, like don't assume emotions when you can't see or hear them. I think is part of it. Yeah. Yeah. And I think for me, this is where like I like asking a lot of questions, and most of the time my questions are, I mean, obviously they're not statements because they're questions, but they're not judgments, I think. Because I think a lot of people take questions as like you're questioning their decision. Like you're not agreeing with their decision or something like that. Whereas it's more just like, I just want to know why you made that decision. Like, just honestly, I just honestly am curious as to like the process your brain went through to make that choice. 100%. Not because I think the choice is bad or good or like weird or that I don't understand it. It's more just like, I want to understand how you operate. Yeah. So I feel like I find myself saying that a lot of like, I'm just curious, not judging, like, or whatever.
Right. Because like, it's like a situation where you're just like, oh no, I just asked because I wanted to know. Like, and it's like, oh no, sorry. And I'm like, no. I just wanted to know where you came from on that. That's all.
Right. But it's such a like ego thing, I think, of like so many people ask like, why did you do that? Because they're like, why did you do that? That's stupid. Instead of like, no, why did you do that? I'm honestly interested in finding out.
Yeah, exactly.
So anyway.
All right. Well, I really don't have too much to like say on the like how my week has been front. I don't know how you're
Yeah,
going. It's
no,
been kind
not
of just an
much.
average, generally average week. I'm finally gearing up to get my bike. My bike, my e-bike, ready for riding again.
Ooh, yay.
I haven't yet rid it yet this year, so I'm glad that I waited until like early June to do so instead of like May when I could have, like early May. But it's fine. So I'll definitely do get on that. But there was some stuff that kind of came across my desk, so to speak, that I wanted to hit before we hit the main topic of it. So apologies if listening to T is not really your steez, but we're gonna get to that later anyway. So I'll try and make this as concise as possible for those people who don't necessarily care. But and I'm going to put a big old fat allegedly in front of this because this is all like it's all like recounted from the internet, and I'll try and put it in there as well because again, I'm hearing this from other people, so you know, things can always come out and new things can always be learned. But so shortly after PAX East, which is the earlier in the year convention that happens in like Boston, the Boston area, a couple of people kind of came out against this gentleman in the TTRPG community who goes by Gabe Hicks. He is a Black creator in the space, and he was kind of running up the ranks, so to speak. Like he was starting to work with places like Dimension 20, which is like Dropouts, formerly known as College Humor.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, College Humor became Dropout because they were like, well, we kind of don't really like this name anymore. Let's make something else. So so there's so he was working with like Dimension 20. I know he's done some stuff with Critical Role. He did like a short mini series with the McElroys on their Adventure Zone series. Like they don't really have guests that often, especially like on their main like feed, if you will. So that's kind of a big deal that he was like a part of that.
Gotcha. Okay.
So, like I said, I'll try and keep this kind of short, but basically what came out is that Gabe's then girlfriend, they are no longer together, basically announced that she found out that Gabe was sleeping around on her, and that he was basically telling her and other people that the multiple people that he was sleeping around with were just like crazy stalkers and fans that he was wishing would leave him alone. And he would then turn around and tell these other people that like he was either single or that his girlfriend was fine with what was going on and it was totally fine. And not only was he doing this, but in some instances, he was actively sleeping with a particular person and then telling all of his friends and all of his like work acquaintances and such that they were toxic and that they should be blackballed from the community, which like I can see twofold. One, from just having the fun of being able to manipulate people's careers. And I put fun in air quotes allegedly because like I don't see the fucking fun in that, but like some people are evil and mean and like doing that kind of things. Allegedly.
They take pleasure in manipulating.
Yes, they take yeah. But the other thing that I thought about it was like, well, that's a really great way of making sure that you don't have to cover your tracks, because like if you blackball this person from the industry, then you don't ever have to worry about being at a table with them and then having an uncomfortable conversation.
Yeah.
But like, you know, this person was going around wondering why all of a sudden they just like couldn't get into spaces that they thought they belong in, and had no idea that it was the person that they were sleeping with or messing around with, for lack of better words. Which, like, I'm trying to use this language to emphasize that this is not these people's fault. This is all the fault of Gabe. Like, so please note that I'm not putting any blame or onus on them. They were operating with the knowledge that they had, and it just so happens that they had bad knowledge. That's what sucks about that. So not only that, but then Gabe was also basically shit talking people that he was actively working with that he wasn't in a relationship with. So he was doing like a big, allegedly he was doing like a big like bunch of things with like smaller creators and like guesting on their things, and like, you know, basically they would give him a ride and hang out with him for, you know, 10-hour shoots, and then he would shit talk them to other people and be like, I hate this thing so much, like I don't know why I'm doing this, they're so bad. And like there are people that were like so excited to get to like meet and work with Gabe that are now finding out, like as this is all coming out, that like he was like shit talking them, and they're like heartbroken over it.
Yeah.
To make matters even worse, and this is why I'm bringing this up now, I found out recently that someone that I know, I won't name them, was actively trying to work with Gabe on something, and I don't think they had knowledge of this either, but they were actively trying to work with him on something, and he basically screwed them out of a bunch of money, like $5,000 or so. And didn't even tell like his business partner like what was happening. Like he was just like very, very secretive about it, and kind of just like ran away with these people's money. And he was telling them, oh yeah, you can have a location, and then the location ended up being like his basement or something. Like it was just not a great situation.
Yeah.
But the part that I found like a bit morbidly funny is that like, so he's doing all of this stuff, basically fucking around and not being honest with people. And at least his girlfriend and one of the people he was messing around with identify as poly. So if he would have just said, hey, I want to do this poly relationship thing, they would have been totally fine with it. So like totally did this to himself.
They may have been totally fine with it.
Well, they said like after the fact, like if he had just been upfront and honest, this would have been fine. Like
got it.
He could have. Yeah, no. Sorry.
I thought maybe because they were poly, you were like
no.
that, and I was like,
no.
well,
they actually confirmed. Got it. They actually confirmed. They did say that, because like they're trying to like build a friendship now, where before there was like contention and hostility, at least from the ex-girlfriend side of things, because she believed all of this stuff that Gabe told her, which, you know, not blaming her at all. Obviously, she believed her partner was telling her the truth. So what do you do with that, you know? So yeah, so like people that I've talked to are like, well, Sherrick, that's not the point. And it's like, I get it. It just seems like you had a perfect opportunity to make this work out in your favor and not essentially be gone from the industry at this point, because he's deleted everything. Like he put out like a standard man apology saying, sorry if I hurt your feelings. Sorry. And then people were like, that's not good enough. And he was like, okay, I'm just leaving now. And then he deleted all his socials. So like, you know, like you could have at least because I'm naive. People are like, well, yeah, but like it's the getting away with it and the manipulation and stuff that like is the fun part for him. So it's like, I was like, I get that, but like, you could have at least, like, you just shot yourself in the foot for no good reason. You know what I mean? Like from my perspective, there was no reason whatsoever for you to be messing around with so many people and just lying to so many people. And the other shit about him just like, you know, shit talking people that he was working with. I have no idea why he was on that tip. I have no idea what he got out of that from a pleasure standpoint. Because it's like, you're spending 10 to 12 hours with these people. Why are you shit talking them? Just don't do the thing. Like, it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. So
that's the sad story of what happened there. I just wanted to get that out there, and I feel very bad for the people that were affected. And I hope that like they can move past this. Obviously, very much in support of the victims of Gabe in this instance, all of them, whether they were like directly, intimately involved, or if they put their faith in him and he ultimately let them down or took advantage of them. So I just, it's one of those things where it's like, damn, that sucks that like we can't have like even in this community where like, and I think we've talked about this offline a little bit. It's like this community where you would think that people would be more apt to be working together to create cool shit. You still find people that are just like, well, I want to be the main character, so it has to be about me, or I'm not happy. And it's like, come on, bro. Like, So
yeah, it's interesting because I feel like in these sorts of more nerdy communities, quote unquote, that it goes one of two ways. That like most people in those communities, or a lot of people in those communities, have known some sort of bullying or being left out of things or feeling other at times in their life. And some people take that and go, I don't want anyone else to feel that way. So I'm going to be very inclusive and welcoming and loving and all that. And then some people take it and go, well, I had a fucked up experience, so who gives a shit what happens to other people? And like now that I'm popular for something, like I'm gonna be an asshole to people, like people were an asshole to me.
Yeah,
because that's the natural order of things or whatever, and it's just frustrating.
Speaking of frustrating things, shall we dive in?
Sure.
All right, Amelia, tell the lovely voicemail listeners what we're talking about today.
So today we are talking about a documentary on Max called MoviePass, MovieCrash. Is that what it's called?
Yeah, I believe that's correct.
I was like, no, I don't remember. Yes, that's what it's called. It is very, very new. It came out just this year, just recently, I believe. I actually found out about it on another podcast. And as they were talking about it, I was like, A, I need to watch this. And B, I feel like we need to talk about it.
Yeah.
So I watched it this morning. And whoo boy. I mean, for those who haven't seen it and or don't know what MoviePass was, it was a monthly subscription where you paid $9.95 a month and you could go to one movie a day. And anyone with half a brain can do enough math to know, hey, that's not financially viable if every single person who buys a MoviePass goes to the movies every day or even every week. Because this wasn't that long ago. And so movies were pretty much always more than $9.95 just to go to one. And okay, so there's this thing called like the gift card phenomenon, which is like people buy gift cards and then forget about them and don't spend them. So the company makes more money when you buy their gift cards than if you just shop there, because often
they've got that money and they don't have to worry about it coming back at them, like
they're not giving away, they're not exchanging product for that gift card, they're just getting free money essentially. So they believed like something like that would happen, and I think that's a good assumption. Like, I think most subscriptions, or a lot of subscriptions, don't get used to their full extent. But there's always going to be people who do. And especially the better the deal is, the more likely people are to use it to its fullest extent. Hence, Red Lobster's recent bankruptcy.
Yep.
Not totally because of all-you-can-eat shrimp, but definitely didn't help. So I get that. Is like, and again, a lot of things are like this. Like, this is how insurance works, right?
Yeah,
like, people
100%.
pay into insurance, then somebody has a claim and they use the money they have to pay for that claim. But if everybody had a claim all at the same time on insurance, they wouldn't have enough money to pay for it.
Right.
Banks are like this too. They don't have all the cash on hand for everything. So yeah, anyway. So the point is that this is a terrible business model. And I remember when MoviePass got to be a big thing and thinking like, I should get one of these because $9.95 for unlimited movies practically, or 30 movies a month or whatever. I was like, that's a fucking great deal. Even if I went twice, it'd be a great deal. But at the same time, I was like, when it all kind of crashed and burned, I was kind of like, yeah, that makes sense.
So, to kind of, so thank you. That's a great way to kind of kick us off. So to kind of go chronologically back towards the beginning here, because like I barely had MoviePass on my radar. Like when I saw the red MoviePass card, I was like, oh yeah, like I've never seen one like in public, if that makes sense. But I also don't go to a lot of movies.
Either. Yeah.
So like it's one of those things where it's like I think it was just like a culture blind spot for me. But so we actually have to go all the way back to like the 90s or so to talk about Stacy Spikes. So Stacy Spikes is a Black entrepreneur. He basically went to LA right after high school and worked like at a blue collar job before, like he kind of like was like jumping up the ladder a little bit here and there until he heard that Motown was hiring. So he entered the entertainment industry by working at Motown Records. And like he points out that he was like a product manager for Boyz II Men around the time that like their biggest hit, End of the Road, hit the airwaves, which I was just like, go on.
Well, A, that's incredible. But B, I'm a little bit surprised that End of the Road is their biggest hit.
Well, I mean, that might have been like a thing that just the documentary said. I haven't.
Yeah, that's true.
That,
I could fact check that and find out. But I know it was a big deal, but it's just not the number one song I would think of when I think of Boyz II Men. So anyway, not the point. Keep going.
I mean, Motown Philly, maybe, but you know.
Yeah. Motown Philly, I'll make love to you. That's
that also up there. Both. Well, no, one of the two songs, definitely a song that was played at like our high school dances. You can guess which one, and you can guess which one. I'll just leave that there. So anyway, from there he worked. He kind of moved over. I believe he said he got hired to Miramax Films, and he went all the way up to vice president of marketing. And he makes a point of talking about how he was like, oh, well, we checked out Sundance Film Festival and we were like, oh, there aren't really a lot of like Black films being showcased. And the pushback that he got was, well, if they were any good, then we would feature them, which is like, ladies, gentlemen, non-binary and in between, that is a theme of this doc. I'll just say that.
Which I just have one word to say.
Yeah.
Access.
So it's funny that you say that, because then he went, okay, I'll make my own Sundance, except it'll be with people of color. So he founded Urban World Film Festival in 1997, which is still going on today. I don't know. I don't think he's necessarily involved as much as he was anymore. It was kind of ambiguous. I'm not finding a lot.
Sure.
But like, but he founded Urban World to basically be like, okay, well, this is like the Sundance Film Festival, but for people of color, and this is great, and it's launched so many careers. So basically from there, he teamed up with this incredibly attractive brother looking man named Hamay Watt. I was just like, this man with the chocolate eyes and the hair. I was like, okay, sir, I see you. they basically were, and this is the thing that like Steph was like, keep it. You know how Steph does when like we're watching stuff that she knows that like I may feel one way or another about. She's constantly looking over at me to see what my reaction is. But they are the actual true co-founders of MoviePass.
Yep.
Which like will come into play later. So just in case you didn't know, Stacey Spikes and Hamay Watt were the ones that founded MoviePass. They did it, not some other motherfuckers.
Yep.
So they launched it, and I can't remember the name of the dude. He was this nice, well-meaning looking white dude named Chris, I think. He was kind of fronting them the money to kind of make this thing go. And their whole thing, I think the original business model was like somewhere between $40 or $50 a month to see movies, and you got like a voucher. But then too many customers were like, well, this is cumbersome and it's not working. So they basically wrote an app that would connect to the MoviePass card, the red MoviePass debit MasterCard that you would get. But it just wasn't growing as fast as like they all would have liked. It was still doing well. Like it wasn't a failure.
No.
But it wasn't like a smashing success.
Right.
And so and feel free to stop me here. I don't want to tell the whole story, but like, so Chris kind of was like, well, we got to get we got to get more people involved because I want to take the burden off of me. I don't want to be the only one like financing this. Y'all gotta to get something. So, feel free to jump in here, I guess. Otherwise, I'm just gonna tell the whole thing. So I'll let you jump in.
Yeah. So, long story short, they bring in a white dude who I don't know. I didn't really like pay that much attention to like the two white dudes' credentials and shit, other than that, like, and like how long it took for them to bring them in or whatever. But essentially, they brought in these two white dudes. I think one a little bit later, named Mitch and Ted.
Yes.
Which, on the podcast that I learned about this doc on, they kept calling them Bill and Ted.
Yeah. I was going to say it's very close. It's very, very close.
And they were like, but this was not an excellent adventure. And in my head, I was like, no, it's a bogus journey.
Yeah, exactly. Good. So good. Well done.
But Mitch had been like the head of other shit, whatever, who cares. And Ted...
Mitch had worked at Netflix and Redbox. So they thought, okay, well, this makes sense.
And he claimed to have like helped found Netflix, and later we find out that's not true. Basically, he lied on his resume. Anyway, and then Ted is like the ultimate like ShamWow guy. Like he's just like he's just like a schemer. I think on the podcast they called him a walking QVC ad. Because he just seemed to like get into these not necessarily scams, but not really super legit things either. So
what the fuck was that guy's name? It was like Ted. It started with an H, I think. It was it's a real douchey sounding last name.
I don't know. I just kind of like every time they talked about them or showed them on screen or whatever, it was just like white dudes. So they bring them
Farnsworth.
in.
Sorry, Ted Farnsworth. That's what it is.
Oh, Jesus. Yeah.
I was way off, but like it's like the douchiest white name I could think of.
It's very like guy. It's not just douchey, it's like intellectual douchey.
Yeah. Like he has to push his glasses up.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, he says, actually, milady. And it's like, get the fuck out of here.
Yeah. So, yeah. And long story short, they push Stacy and Hamay out.
Yeah, so it started with Chris kind of being like, you got to take this deal. We got to get Mitch on board. He's going to help you guys. Like, he's going to be the new blood, even though he was like older than both of them. And he came in and basically just like was like, okay, black fellas, I don't give a shit what y'all have to say. I'm going to do things my way, even though I'm. And Chris was like, well, he worked at Netflix and he worked at Redbox, so he's got to know what he's talking about. And then Mitch was like, we got to get Ted on board. He's a visionary and he's so smart and he's so this and he's so that. And like, it was so funny to me because every time that they would cut to Mitch saying something and then they would cut to Stacey and Hamay saying something, I would just like look at Mitch and be like, how the fuck did you not realize these brothers were right the whole time?
Oh yeah. To me, this whole documentary was white man be white manning. Like, I just was like, this is the epitome of white male hubris and corporate greed.
Yep.
And it's just like, how many documentaries have I watched about some old white guys who are now on trial for fraud or conspiracy or insider trading or, like it's a tale as old as time.
Yeah.
And I just was like, none of it was surprising to me, but it also was just like, can we just stop? Like, because again, like, it wasn't even just that, like, they fucked it up. They also, like, lied coming in. So, like, investors put all this money behind them because they were like, this dude knows what he's talking about. He's an entrepreneur. He's done this, blah, blah, blah. But a lot of his claims were false. Like, he didn't co-found Netflix. He didn't have this, like, successful, like, all this other shit. Whereas,
he was just a dude that was in the room while this shit was happening, and he just went, yeah,
totally. And finding out that, like, Stacey and Hamay, prior to this, had created successful businesses. It's just, like, it's just the epitome of, like, having to work twice as hard to get half as much.
Exactly.
Or those ratios are probably way farther apart. Sure. Well, and the part that got me is when they were talking about, like, how they had to bring Mitch on basically because they needed capital. And that obviously in the society, in the world that we live in, I knew that white men got the majority of venture capital. But when they told me that women and people of color get 1% to 3% of all the venture capital, that was a new low. Like, that was a new one for me.
Yeah. So what you basically kind of learn from this is that, like, MoviePass didn't really grow, not because people weren't interested. It's because there were too many white people with money that were like, well, we're not interested in helping you. And then all of a sudden, when Mitch and Ted all of a sudden are like the forefront of MoviePass, all of a sudden all these places want to give them money. And it's like, okay. So basically, like you said, Stacey and Hamay get pushed out. First they get, like, removed from the board, and then Stacey gets, like, a message being like, someone's going to move into your office. Your services are no longer needed. And it's very unclear when Hamay leaves, but, like, before this point, Stacey especially is talking about how, like, they're like, oh yeah, let's make it unlimited for $9.99. And then he's like, okay, well, how are we going to we only have 500,000 cards. We're already way over that. How are we going to get more cards, and how are we going to get them to people? Because they're not, at the time, it's like, these are not easy to make. Like, you have to, like, stamp them specifically. They're custom made.
I think they said that they physically had 50,000 cards.
Yes, thank you.
And they got to 100,000 subscriptions. Like, they thought by lowering the price to $9.99, they'd get to 100,000 subscriptions in like a year, and they got to it in like a week.
Yeah,
or something like that. And they were like, we physically only have 50,000 cards. What the hell are we gonna do? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, and this part hit me so well. Because they don't just interview. So obviously Stacey and Hamay, Mitch is in the documentary, but then they also have like some engineers and some customer service people as well that are involved. And like, to not go beat by beat, but like with the rapid growth of MoviePass, Mitch and Ted are like, party, we're gonna have like MoviePass themed parties, we're gonna buy a helicopter to put MoviePass on the side of it, we're gonna talk to this influencer that I've never heard of and have her and Dennis Rodman get out of a MoviePass helicopter and wear the merch. And meanwhile, they have like 7 or 8 customer service people for 1,500 support tickets.
Yep.
And they're like, do you think that we got invited to these parties? Fuck no. Like, are you serious? Like, and so Mitch hires this fucking guy named Khalid who, like, I guess saw him at some conference and, like, impressed him, even though he couldn't really say what Khalid was doing before that. And was like, I'm going to make him the VP of something and such. So, like, he kind of was like, I guess for lack of better words, kind of like the fall guy a little bit, because he didn't really know what he was doing. So he was just like, yeah, we're going to go to Coachella and have a MoviePass concert at Coachella. And it's like, what is MoviePass doing at a music festival? That doesn't make any fucking sense.
Right. Yeah, the whole thing was just like, yeah, it was just like, we're going to blow this money before we barely have it. And like, and it just like, to me, again, them saying like, okay, well, we got to make it cheaper so that people will buy it. Okay, sure. But $9.99, like, how? I just feel like that entire company was probably full of people like screaming into the void that the sky is falling. While Mitch and Ted are acting like 16-year-olds at an orgy, and like, I just can't wrap my head around how like anybody thought that this was a good business plan to start with. It wasn't even just a like, oh, we fucked up and we like went too fast, or we just, you know, like if we had just lowered the price a little bit, it would have been fine or whatever. Like, I just don't understand how anybody was like, yeah, this is gonna work. No.
And I love the line at the beginning where Mitch says, I just didn't feel that like Stacey and Hamay were going to be good team members. And it's like, yeah, because they wouldn't let you just throw money down the fucking toilet, you weirdo. Like, what the fuck? They were like trying to hold you accountable. And you're just like, I just didn't feel like they were good team members and good fits for the company. And it was like,
because they weren't yes men.
Yeah. Flames on the side of my face.
Yeah. Well, again, as they explained, when they left, or at least when Stacey left, he got to keep stock, and his stock was worth $80 million.
Right.
But because of the laws, he couldn't sell it for a year. And by the end of that first year, the company was worth nothing.
They said pennies. Literally, like their stock options were were pennies.
Yep. So like this oh god, it just makes me so angry.
So yeah, definitely. So basically with Ted coming in, they were essentially being financed by this company called HMNY, or Helios in Matheson, New York. And they were being funded by this company, this hedge fund called Hudson Bay. So basically Hudson Bay was funneling money into HMNY, which in turn was funneling money into MoviePass, which was hemorrhaging it. Like,
yep.
I think what Stacy said in the doc was that, like, when I was running it, we were losing like maybe $200,000 a year. When they were running it, they were losing $30 million a year.
Yeah.
Because part of it was that they refused to like bump up the price. They were just like, no, we have enough money. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. All systems go. Like, go ahead. Sorry, you were going to say something.
Well, I just want to say that, like, that's normal. Like, the 200,000 or whatever.
Right. Yeah.
Like, having a negative cash flow at the beginning of a company is normal. But yeah, the way that they would go on TV and go on news channels and stuff, financial news and whatever, and say like, "Oh yeah, we'll be cash flow neutral in like a week." When that's like
60 days, they were like 60 days, and they were like, how? And oh, we're gonna sell the data. And like some guy came on and was like, so you can get like $1 to $4 per 1,000 people. Yep. So that was not going to save them. Like,
no. So yeah, it was just like, well, they lied. They knowingly lied to get people to buy the stock so that the stock would go up and they would make money.
Right.
And they were hoping that would cover them to get to that place. But that like never works. At a certain point, you can't recoup that much debt. Like, it is normal to go into debt to start a business. But at a certain point, you have to, like, price your service or your thing to a place where you're going to get out of debt eventually.
Right. And to step back just for a second, like, they were all in on this like 200, like this free, you see movies one a day every day for $9.95 a month. And like like there were people that they interviewed that were like either investors or just straight up just users that were like, this one guy was like, I would see the first hour of Avengers on Monday, and then I'd see the last hour of Avengers on Tuesday. And if I got bored, then I would just go and see the last half hour of it like on Wednesday. And it was like, there were some people who were like, yeah, I saw like a movie a day. Like I saw like 40 movies in a month or whatever. Like, because they were just like they're not saying like wholly just off of MoviePass, but they're just saying like, I saw like so many movies. This one guy was like, yeah, I saw like 240 movies in a blah blah span. And I was like,
yeah, like,
yeah, go ahead.
Again, not to like keep rehashing this other podcast that I heard, but like they had somebody on, one of the hosts' husbands had MoviePass at this time.
Sure.
And so he was on and talked about how like, yeah, he'd go to a movie and then he'd like sneak into another one. 'Cause like they don't check usually. And so, yeah, even though you technically only get a movie a day, you might be able to sneak around and see other shit. Like, yeah.
To step away for a second, did you remember that John Travolta, John Gotti film?
No.
Okay, because when they showed that, I was like, did I fucking sleep for 3 years? Where was this John Gotti film with John Travolta at? Because Steph was like, was like, oh, I think I remember kind of seeing it. And then the documentary talked about the Rotten Tomato score, and she was like, no, sorry, it got a 0. Like nobody said anything nice about this film. And I was like, that's what it fucking says, I guess. Like, yeah.
I sort of remember this now. Like, I looked it up and like, oh my God. 0.
Yeah. A fucking 0.
It's still a 0. It's still a 0.
And like this, so the reason that we bring this up, lovely listeners, is because MoviePass decided that they were doing so well, and I use all the fucking air quotes, that they were like, we're gonna have MoviePass films and we're gonna press super hard. And John and the Gotti film was like their baby.
Mm-hmm.
It was like the big movie. It was like the big thing that MoviePass was gonna use to like disrupt the whole industry, not just like.
Oh my God! If I had a nickel.
For every time they said disrupt.
If I had a shot every time they said disrupt or disruption, I would be white girl wasted / in the hospital. Oh my God. It was so Silicon Valley douchebag coded. I don't know. Anyway.
Yeah. So Hamay and Stacy kind of have to watch as this is happening because, again, they have their stock options. Fucking, what's his face? Mitch is like, I let them keep their stock options. I let them keep this. And it's like, I was so nice. And it's like, get the fuck out of here. You kicked them both out of the company they started.
Yep.
And so they have to basically just like watch, as they said, like we're not behind the wheel. We're not even in the car. We're just watching. It was like you're watching the car that you bought be driven by somebody else off the cliff, like Thelma and Louise. Like they're just like full punch. Let's
not
go.
Not even the car that we bought, the car that we made, the car that we built.
Yeah, with our, I think the thing that I thought was so, it just made me shake my head in just sadness is that I think Stacy said it took us 10 years to build MoviePass and it took them 1 year to destroy it.
Yep.
Run it into the ground.
Yep.
Like, and I was just like, come on, bro. Like, so to not get too deep into the weeds here, basically, MoviePass goes under. They file for bankruptcy, and then the FTC and the FBI get involved because they're like, well, there's some securities frauds here because towards the end, MoviePass is changing their terms of service daily. There's allegedly there's suggestions that Mitch and Ted were telling the engineers to make the app not work for certain people. At one point, they basically flat up and down say, okay, well, you can use MoviePass, but you can't use it for the number 1 and 2 blockbusters for 3 weeks. And it's like, I turned to Steph and I was like, so if I had this great service, but I was told that I can't see like the big movie that is coming out for 3 weeks, I'm just going to go and buy the ticket by myself. Like I'm not gonna go through MoviePass. That it's useless to me at that point. And this is coming from somebody who sees like maybe a couple of movies a year, you know, like between like 2023 and 2024, I think I've seen more movies than I had 10 years prior to that point. Like, you know, because of lovely friends, they know who they are. But like, it was just like I was like so stunned. I was like, they're changing the terms of service. They're all of a sudden saying, no, now you can only see 3 movies a month and this and that. And people, of course, are like mad. Like, and they're like, oh yeah, we want to make sure that we're combating fraud. So now you have to send us a picture of the ticket stub. And so of course, a bunch of people are like, I'm just sending you a picture of my middle finger, or I'll send it.
Which I fucking loved because like, you can't tell me that there aren't other apps or services that like have the means to be able to tell have enough people to check this stuff,
right?
Or
this is like
have the AI enough to like be able to tell that this is a ticket stub and not something else. But
this is like 2015, 2016 at this point. So it's not like we're, you know.
Yeah, so like you can't tell me there isn't anything like that. Like, I feel like I was scanning receipts and it knew they were receipts and pulling the information from receipts online at that point. So they definitely could have had something that did that with ticket stubs. But clearly they didn't because, yeah, this guy was like, yeah, I would just often take a picture of my middle finger and that would let me through. It'd be fine.
I love that, like, some guy was like, they were talking about how somebody sent like a box of shit to their offices, and he's like, listen, I get it, I'm not sending nobody a box of shit, but like I understand, like, because they basically were just like, we're just gonna do whatever we think is gonna save the company, and we'll just leave customer service and engineers to deal with it. Like,
yep. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, and again, like you said, the FTC gets involved, and like there's all this evidence that they showed in the documentary of them on MSNBC and CNBC and shit saying like, we're going to be cash neutral in 60 days.
Yeah.
Like, they can prove that they were lying about that, which is misleading shareholders, which is fraud, which is a federal financial crime. So, like, they didn't even hide their crimes well. Like,
right. It's so frustrating on so many levels to just like see this happening. So, so basically they keep fucking around with things. Then the financial issues pile up. A bankruptcy judge, they file for bankruptcy, and there's class action lawsuits that are being filed by, like, you know, they're blacking out various movies. Like, they're showing people being like, hey, we're here at this theater, I'm opening the MoviePass app and it's showing there aren't any movies available. So, and then of course they're like, well, I could try and call customer service, but they're not going to be any good. And it's like, well, that again is a MoviePass failure, because they had like 7-8 people working that, and like they're asking about like, hey, are our checks gonna bounce or what? Like, and fucking Mitch is like, no, everything will be fine. Side note, there was one moment where Mitch and Ted, I think maybe it was just Mitch, was like on one of the MSNBCs or one of those like financial like shows, and he had his hair cut so short and it was like a little stubble like in various places on the top of his head. And I turned to Steph and I was like, you couldn't get me at any point to lead a house like that. I'm wearing a hat or a toupee. I don't give a fuck. He looked so bad. He looked like he just walked out of like, you know, like a fucking like John Wick ass like explosion where like he's still got like fire happening. It looked like his hair, like someone had just literally lit his hair on fire, and he just like put it out and was like, "Oh, I got 3 minutes. I gotta go." And I was just like, "You, bruh, you know." But like they said, like, there's that picture, that promotional picture of Mitch holding the popcorn, and he's looking up with his like weird like grimace smile. And I'm like, of course a bunch of fucking white retail investors are gonna be like, that's the guy. He's the guy we're gonna invest our money in, because he's gonna disrupt the movie industry. And he kept saying, we're gonna all be rich. We're all gonna be rich. And it's like, no, you're all gonna be tried for securities fraud. That's what you're gonna be tried for.
Yep. And they are waiting trial.
Yeah, they are both awaiting trial. Ted is not anywhere to be seen in this whole fucking documentary outside of pictures. And they kept, like, at the beginning, they kept saying Ted was this, Ted was that. And so I was like, Steph, either he's dead, he left the country, or he's in jail. I was wrong on all counts. Apparently he just didn't want to be a part of the documentary because he's not in jail yet. But of course he's like, HMNY and is gone now because they also filed for bankruptcy. But like Hudson Bay is still giving this motherfucker money. Still.
I know, for other things. Well, and like, honestly, it's probably super smart of Ted not to be in this documentary, because like, if when this trial happens,
as long as he doesn't Dan Schneider himself, I guess. Go on. Allegedly.
If in this fucking trial they use parts of the documentary against Mitch, I will laugh so hard. Because, like, I'm not a lawyer.
Yeah.
I don't have a law degree.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like if I was his lawyer, I would be like, do not say anything publicly about this company or about your role in this company.
Mm-hmm.
Just lay low, dude. And he's like, nah, I'm going to be in this documentary and say anything I want.
He gives me very I was in the right energy.
Yeah. Yes. He that and or I'm a white dude and I'm untouchable. And it's just blah. I hate them.
Mm-hmm.
I hate them so much.
So Stacy ends up, like we said, Stacy and Hame lose everything because the company goes bankrupt. The stocks plummet as a result.
Mm-hmm.
And then Stacy goes, well, I think he says, if we had just tried our hardest and failed, that would have been something I could have lived with.
Mm-hmm.
But to see it like spiral out of our hands that way, and to see the way that it failed, just like it hurt. But yeah,
of course it did.
Right.
But yeah, eventually, and here's where, like, these guys were smart and that they had other businesses because, like, so they weren't totally broke.
Mm-hmm.
And when, as part of the, like, bankruptcy process, the company went up on auction, he was able to bid on it and get it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it wasn't expensive because it wasn't worth much at this point, but
right.
But then he cited all these other like founders and stuff and CEOs and whatever who had like left their companies and come back,
right,
or gotten their company back somehow.
Mm-hmm.
And how he was like, well, if they can do it, I can do it. And so yeah, now Stacy Spikes owns MoviePass again, and it is a thing again that you can do. It's a very different model. You pay a monthly fee, and depending on the level that you subscribe at, you get so many credits a month.
Mm-hmm.
And movies are worth so many credits. Like, depending on demand and popularity and all that stuff, different movies are different credit values. But yeah, and they roll over, so you can build them up and take everybody to the movies after 6 months or whatever. But yeah, it's much more sustainable that way.
Mm-hmm.
So I wish him luck. And, like, as they said on this other podcast, like, I kind of want to get it because I want to support him.
yeah. I said it to Steph too. I was like, I don't see movies that often, but like, I kind of want to get MoviePass. Which leads to a funny thing is that one of the people in the doc is like talking about how he still has his MoviePass card because it's like it was like
oh my god, that was my favorite moment. Okay, go on.
And then they were like, oh yeah, no, those are like collector's items, like you can sell that. And he's like, this bitch will be on eBay tonight, guaranteed.
Yep.
Like he's like,
yep.
like
I know. He's like but like he goes on for like a couple of minutes saying like, yeah, I still have the card because of the memories. And like it was a nice time in my life when I saw all these movies, and like it was just so fun, and it just reminds me of this time. And oh, did you know that there are worth something on eBay? Oh, this bitch will be on there tonight. Yeah. I died. It was so funny.
3 funny, 6 me. So funny. So just
oh my gosh.
hilarity.
So yeah, I know. Like and here's like the thing is like I like going to movies, but I don't do it that often.
Mm-hmm.
And recently, and by recently I mean within the last, I don't know, 6 months to a year. No. Probably like 6 months-ish. I haven't been paying that much attention. So like the other day, my parents were visiting and I was like, oh, maybe there's a movie we can go to or something. And I looked up what was playing and I was like, I have no idea what the fuck these are. Mm-hmm. Like other than the ones that are like sequels or like part of a franchise or something. I was like, I've never heard of this before in my life. But yeah, because I remember like a lot of the theaters around here are AMC theaters, and they have like a membership that at like the lowest level, it's just like points and coupons and whatever. But there's a level at the highest level where you get like 1 or 2 movies a month or something. I can't remember what the whole thing is, but I remember looking at that once going like, if I could afford this, I would do it because it would make me go to the movies a couple times a month or once a month or whatever it was, because I do like it. It's just that like A, it's expensive. B, I'm lazy. C, I don't know what's playing anymore. But, you know, I'm also the bitch who saw The Little Mermaid 4 times last year, so... If I'm motivated, I go.
Yeah. There was one guy that said he saw Crazy Rich Asians like 14 times in a month, I think, because of MoviePass.
Yeah. I've never seen that, so I don't.
Me neither.
I can't weigh in as to whether or not it's that good to see it that many times, but I honestly don't know if I can think of any movie I'd want to see 14 times in a month.
Yeah, I was gonna say I think the most for me was, and it wasn't in a month. It was it was across 2 months. But I saw Knives Out like 6 times, I think, in the course of 2 months, because I was just like, I love this, and there were several people that were like, oh, I want to see it. I was like, I will go with you. I will go with you.
Yeah, let's see. I think my record is 5 times. Maybe I saw The Little Mermaid 5 times.
Okay.
Because then I also saw Lizzie McGuire 5 times.
Hell yeah.
Shout out 2003. And I wanted to at least meet my record with The Little Mermaid because I loved it that much. But I can't remember if I did or not. So, and I mean, like at home, Jenny and I once watched She's the Man 6.5 times in a week.
Damn, son.
Every night. This was the summer we lived together. Every night, and she worked like a 9-to-5 job. So, and I worked very part-time that summer. And so I was around a lot. So I made dinner a lot. So like she'd come home, I made dinner. I guess I was her housewife. And then we'd be like, oh, we should watch something. What do you want to watch? And like we'd think of stuff and be like, nah. Do you want to watch She's the Man? Yes, I do. So then we watched it every night, and then one night we watched it and got halfway through and we're falling asleep. So that's why it's 6.5 times.
Hilarity.
Because we were like, we didn't feel the need to finish it the next morning or whatever because we'd seen it 6 times. So I was like, we know what happens. We don't need to finish it right now. So I think that's my record for a movie frequency. But yeah, even 14 times would be, that's every other day.
Yeah, that's a lot. That's a lot. But
he must have had a lot of free time on his hands.
But yeah, so this is a tale of how the black people were right, the white people were wrong, and the white people might go to jail or at least get a huge fine, which, like, you know, is it sucks that that's like the the possible scenarios that they'll basically just be like, okay, well, we'll pay some money and then we'll just get to live on with our lives. Because to me, I think what they did is it's incredibly abusive and disgusting.
Yep.
But if they get away with it, I guess they get away with it. Like, what are you gonna do? Like, but so it, like I said, it sucks, but they're probably gonna get away with it.
They could serve up to 20 years in prison.
But
yes, I don't think they will. But I'm just like, when I saw that was the sentence for the crimes that they have been charged with, I was like, this is where the system is fucked. Because, like, not that I'm saying that 20 years isn't deserved for this. What I am saying is that, but on the other side, usually sex-related crimes are like 6 years or something.
Yeah, 6 years, whatever.
Like that fucking guy from Quiet on Set who went to prison for a little while.
Yeah,
went to prison for like 5 years or something.
Yeah,
like what the fuck?
Brian something or other. I can't remember his last name.
Because these fucking guys, like, this is where they might go to prison because they screwed over other rich white men.
Yeah.
And when you screw over other rich white men, that's when you get in trouble. But, when you rape kids, whatever.
Yikes.
I hate this system.
Yeah, you ain't the only one, sister. You ain't the only one. But you're probably right in that sense, because, like, I think of, like, the trial of a certain orange-haired motherfucker, and I just go, like, and I said this to a couple people that I talked to about it, and I said the same thing happens with, like, the whole Vince McMahon situation. Is I really don't think that either Orange Hair or Vince McMahon will spend time in prison. But I think the worst that'll happen is that they'll be under house arrest for the rest of their natural lives, and I think that is like. Or I guess in Vince McMahon's case specifically, he just will be at home and kind of just out of the public eye and just pass away. And then maybe WWE will be like, well, it's sad that Vince McMahon is dead. But, like, according to reports, he's, like, banned from their headquarters, including the gym, which is the gym that he had built specifically for himself. He can't even access it anymore. Allegedly, if reports are to be believed, that is the case.
I love that shit.
So, but I was like, in the case of Vince McMahon, like, he did unspeakable things to this woman, allegedly, and that's all he gets is, you get to stay at home and be left alone, generally out of the public eye, whereas she has to live with this trauma for, like, the rest of her life. And with Orange Hair, like he's like. Allegedly, he is responsible for so many deaths, and, like, the fact that, like, he can be the front-running candidate for president of the United States. I've seen so many, like, Facebook memes and stuff being like, we need to take the requirement that you can't have a felony off your record for all sorts of job applications now, because if you can run for president of the United States and be a felon, but you can't work at McDonald's or at fucking Michael's or allegedly, or, like, any other places with a felony on your record, that's bullshit. Like, but again, they're rich and white.
I mean, I am all for those sorts of reforms of, like, because the way that we treat former prisoners, former incarcerated, is not good at all. And why they go back to prison so often is because it's hard for them to find work. Now, obviously, there are legitimately really terrible people who are in jail for really terrible things. I'm not saying that we should, let Ted Kaczynski out. I mean, he's dead, but out, and because he's a felon, give him a job. No. But people get prison sentences for a lot of things.
Yeah.
But I do, and I also think there needs to be reforms on their voting rights. However, Trump not being able to vote in Florida because he's now a felon is hilarious to me.
No, allegedly.
Is that not true?
Someone said someone said DeSantis like did something so he can.
Oh, of course he did. Fuck him. So, well,
there's that.
Okay, so maybe it was true, but the fucking governor like pulled strings. Because I fucking love that shit, that irony. This will make sense to anybody who's a Swiftie. So sorry, Sherrick, not you, but
that's fine.
But the day that came out, all the guilty verdicts came out. A lot of people were like tweeting stuff about. So there's a song on her new album called "Guilty as Sin," and so people were tweeting things like, "Hey Alexa, play Guilty as Sin 17 times in a row," or no, 34 times in a row, obviously. Which I thought was funny. But knowing the song, I was like, that the name fits, nothing else fits, really.
Sure.
So then I was like, no. The smallest man who ever lived. Let's play that 34 times in a row. But that has a line in it that says, what is it? You should be in prison, but you won't serve time.
Yeah, unfortunately.
And I was like, oh, that's the song. That's the one. Anyway.
All right. Well, if you have any thoughts about
white man.
Yeah. If you have any thoughts about the MoviePass situation, and if you want to support MoviePass now, because we're telling you that we want to support MoviePass now, kind of, I just don't go to movies enough, so I'm thinking about it, but maybe.
Well,
anyway,
again, I think, what did I see? It's like the lowest plan is $10 a month, and you get 34 credits. Now, I'm not sure, because it doesn't look like I can see how many credits a movie is worth.
Yeah, you got to kind of sign up before you can see that.
But, they give some examples, and this person, if this person goes to see, a superhero movie on opening night on a weekend, that cost him 30 credits. And he gets 34 for the month. So we're talking about 1 to 3 movies a month at that level. I'm pretty sure. And I was like, I can maybe manage 1 movie a month. And that's worth $10, because most movies are at least $10.
For sure.
Anyway.
But yeah, if you have feelings about it, hit us up at ASWAYDPOD on Instagram or at gmail.com. And tell us what you think. I'm going to throw this in here. So last episode, we talked a little bit about the Animorphs, and my good buddy Joe, who listens to the podcast, shout out to you, Joe, confirmed that it is indeed a Cape Buffalo. So thanks for dealing with me waffling back and forth on what kind of buffalo I thought it was. But we can confirm, thanks to our darling friend Joe, that the animal in question is indeed a Cape Buffalo, both on the cover and in the show. So there's that, or the book rather.
Thanks, Joe.
Thank you, Joe. Shout out to you. Appreciate you a lot. And then I didn't make up a theme song for it because this is Amelia. What the fuck is this? This is part of the episode where I find something wild and crazy kids on the internet and I show it to Amelia and then you without any context, except for this, is that Amelia did not get a say in this one this week. So
oh yeah,
I picked this one out.
Okay, let's see what we got.
So were they.
Yep. Okay, so it is a guy at a pool, at an outdoor pool, and someone is handing him sunscreen, and he's like, no thanks, I tan easy. And I'm like, before anything else happens, I'm like, bullshit, you are white as fuck. You cannot, and like almost gingery. So he has some gingery features.
Yeah, there's a callback.
I'm like, no, there's no way that this kid doesn't fucking burn like the moment he steps outside. And then what happens? He goes to do like a cannonball into the pool, and then it just looks like he erupts into flames and burns out. Dead. Hilarious.
Hooray!
Okay. That was enjoyable. I liked it.
I'm glad you liked it.
All right. Well, I guess maybe we're getting to hit the limit on your voicemail. We should probably get going.
Yeah, we probably should get going. So next week we'll probably talk about how your dentist is probably just coasting off of his dentist assistant's work. Okay, bye.